В этой связи считаю необходимым принять уже давно назревшее решение незамедлительно признать независимость и суверенитет Донецкой Народной Республики и Луганской Народной Республики. Прошу Федеральное собрание Российской Федерации поддержать это решение, а затем и ратифицировать договоры о дружбе и взаимопомощи с обеими республиками. Два эти документа будут подготовлены и подписаны в самое ближайшее время. А от тех, кто захватил и удерживает власть в Киеве, мы требуем незамедлительно прекратить боевые действия. В противном случае вся ответственность за возможное продолжение кровопролития будет целиком и полностью на совести правящего на территории Украины режима. Объявляя о принятых сегодня решениях, уверен в поддержке граждан России, всех патриотических сил страны. Благодарю вас за внимание.
We have reason to believe the Russian forces are planning to and intend to attack Ukraine in the coming week, in the coming days. We believe that they will target Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, a city of 2.8 million innocent people. We're calling out Russia's plans loudly and repeatedly, not because we want a conflict, but because we're doing everything in our power to remove any reason that Russia may give to justify invading Ukraine and prevent them from moving. Make no mistake, if Russia pursues its plans, it will be responsible for a catastrophic and needless war of choice. The United States and our allies are prepared to defend every inch of NATO territory from any threat to our collective security as well.
And do you have any indication about whether President Putin has made a decision on whether to invade? Do you feel confident that he hasn't made that decision already?
As of this moment, I'm convinced he's made the decision. We have reason to believe that.
There seems to be a unanimity of spirit to do between the United States and Europe to do some sanctions, a comprehensive sanctions. But is everyone on board with the exact same sanctions that you want to do?
Yes. There will be some slight differences, but none. There'll be more add-ons than subtractions.
And President Putin is going to oversee some nuclear drills this weekend. How do you see that happening? What's your reaction to that, sir? Thank you.
Well, I don't think he is remotely contemplating using nuclear weapons. But I do think I think he is focused on trying to convince the world that he has the ability to change the dynamics in Europe in a way that he cannot. But I don't, how much of it is a cover for just saying we're just doing exercises and there's more than that, I just can't, it's hard to read his mind.
Mr. President, to be clear, you are convinced that President Putin is going to invade Ukraine. Is that what you just said a few moments ago?
Yes, I did. Yes.
So is diplomacy off the table then?
No. Until he does, diplomacy is always a possibility.
What reason do you have to believe he's considering that option at all?
We have a significant intelligence capability. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
The sound of the siren was a signal to leave. In Donetsk, a city held by Russian-backed rebels, a mass evacuation is underway this evening. All the people are leaving the city, says the driver. Women, children, and the elderly first in the queue. The Russian government had helped to arrange their accommodation. The separatist leader, supported by Moscow, swapped his usual shiny suit for military uniform to order the mass evacuation. Residents needed to flee to Russia, he said, because Ukrainian forces planned to attack. But analysis later revealed this announcement was recorded 2 days ago, raising suspicions it was part of a premeditated plan.
Western media and the internet have linked the fact that the evacuation warning was already recorded 2 days ago on the 16th as a pretext for a Russian invasion. However, on the 16th, the day of the U.S. invasion warning, there were reports of gunfire in the Donbas region, and on the 17th, there were reports of what happened after the shelling. The fact that it was recorded in advance is not particularly surprising. The evacuation of the residents to Russia was the default course of action. The 500,000 to 700,000 residents to be evacuated have already been granted citizenship. While the U.S. government was preoccupied with propagating a false flag operation, President Putin repeatedly called on the Ukrainian government to implement the Minsk agreements. Many people know that the Ukrainian side is not willing to implement it. It would not be surprising if they were making some kind of preparations.
Everything that we're seeing, including what you've described in the last 24, 48 hours, is part of a scenario that is already in play, of creating false provocations, of then having to respond to those provocations, and then ultimately committing new aggression against Ukraine.
On the afternoon of the 18th, President Putin immediately ordered the preparation of facilities to receive evacuated residents. Even at this point, the U.S. government and media reports are not out of the woods making excuses for the invasion. On February 20th, about 40,000 displaced residents arrived in Russian territory. No invasion, no war, but a way to protect the people of Russian descent. Going back in time a bit, we see that. On February 15th, Russia's lower house of parliament adopted a proposal requesting President Putin to recognize the statehood of Donetsk and Lugansk. In response, President Putin announced that he would carefully consider the proposal. At the same time, the Russian government submitted a report to the UN Security Council on the genocide committed by Ukrainians in the Donbas region.
Позволю себе только добавить, что по нашим оценкам, то, что происходит на Донбассе сегодня, это и есть геноцид. Мы слышим, что Украина не готова сегодня к вступлению в НАТО. Мы знаем этот тезис. И тут же говорят, что ее завтра не примут. А примут тогда, когда ее подготовят к этому. Но для нас это может быть уже поздно. Поэтому мы хотим решить этот вопрос сейчас. Вот прямо сейчас, в ближайшее время, в ходе переговорного процесса, мирными средствами. Вот мы из этого исходим и очень надеемся на то, что наши озабоченности будут нашими партнерами услышаны и приняты всерьез. Силовое сдерживание России воспринимается нами в качестве прямой и непосредственной угрозы национальной безопасности, снять которую как раз и призваны юридические соглашения на основе внесенных нами проектов. Мы готовы к этой совместной работе и дальше. По поводу, хотим мы этого или нет. Конечно, нет. Именно поэтому мы и выдвинули предложение о переговорном процессе, результатом которого должна быть договоренность об обеспечении равной безопасности всех, включая нашу страну. Что касается исполнительных органов власти, в том числе военно-политического руководства страны, здесь комментировать нечего. Принято решение о частичном отводе войск. Голосование в Государственной Думе, думаю, так или иначе связано, конечно, с этим, потому что депутаты парламента, так же, как в любой стране, в России, ориентируются на общественное мнение. Ориентируются на мнение своих избирателей, и они тонко его чувствуют. И в этой связи совершенно очевидно, в нашей стране подавляющее большинство людей сочувствует жителям Донбасса, поддерживает их и надеется, что ситуация там коренным образом изменится. Господин президент сказал, там Россия проводит учения, сосредоточила группировку большую. А разве Украина не сосредоточила? Те же самые 100 или 125 тысяч человек на Донбассе там сосредоточено. Повторяю еще раз, дважды же пытались это делать, военным путем там, решить вопрос Донбасса. И не скрывали это, использовали технику, авиацию. А кто нам даст гарантии, что этого не будет? Это же тоже законный вопрос с нашей стороны.
Over the last few days, we've seen reports of a major uptick in violations of the ceasefire by Russian-backed fighters attempting to provoke Ukraine and the Donbass. We also continue to see more and more disinformation being pushed out to the Russian public, including Russian-backed separatists, claiming that Ukraine is planning to launch a massive offensive attack in the Donbass. Well, look, there is simply no evidence of these assertions, and it defies basic logic.
Naturally, the U.S. cannot admit to the fact of violence in the Donbass. If there is a genocide investigation, the U.S. and NATO will have been complicit in the genocide. What about the facts? At least, there have been examples of this in the past. In the not-so-distant past. Biden's comments about turning a blind eye to the violence in Donbass may have been the deciding factor. However, I do not agree with the view that it was planned from the beginning for this purpose. It may be a powerful reprisal against the West, which did nothing but words in the face of human rights violations in the Uyghurs and the recognition of Taiwan as a state. As a precedent for the process of state recognition, the United States and NATO members were the first to recognize Kosovo, which unilaterally gained independence from Serbia.